Okay, in this lecture we're going to learn what is a function and what can it do for you. Now we were just talking about formulas and how they create calculations in Excel, and a function is basically a formula on steroids. A function is a piece of code that makes your formulas more powerful. And I'm going to show you a really simple example of how this works in just a minute. But you can also think of a function as a piece of a formula that Excel has predefined to make it easier for you to use. So let me show you a really quick and simple example of the power of functions. As you recall from our previous lecture when we were talking about formulas, we have a very simple formula here. We have 5 plus 5 equals 10. But let's say that you had a lot more data in this situation. Let's say you have a whole big long list of numbers, and this is actually still a small example compared to many Excel situations. Now if we wanted to create a formula for this, we start with our equal sign, and we would have to go 5 shift plus 5 shift plus 5 shift plus 5 shift plus, and so on and so forth until we get all the way down this list just to add up these numbers. Talk about tedious. So instead, we're going to use a function. We're going to start with our equal sign. We're going to go up to our function bar here, click on sum. Our function arguments box pops up, and it's already asking us, do we want to do 1 through 11? We click OK, and presto, there's our answer. Or we can click on the equals, type in the word sum, click it, click and drag to highlight the numbers that we want to add up, and click enter, and once again, presto, there's our answer. So comparing to going through manually and adding all of these numbers into a formula versus using a function within the formula to quickly calculate a lot of cells, you can see the power that a function will have. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. So real quickly, let me show you a couple of ways to find functions. And then through the rest of this section, we're going to look at the 7 most popular and widely used functions. I'm going to teach you exactly how to use them so that you can really start to put some power into your Excel calculations. So if you go up here to the formulas bar, it has a whole list of drop downs here with all kinds of functions. And before you get overwhelmed by this, I want you to know that most Excel users, even experienced Excel users, do not know how to use every function that's available in Excel. There are tons and tons of them, and the beauty is you can just find the functions that you need to do what you need to get accomplished and not really worry about the rest of them. And then as you go, you're going to add some new functions to your bag of tricks so that you can do the calculations and do the analysis that you need to do on your spreadsheets. So first I'm going to delete my function here, and there are a couple of ways you can do this. You can go to the insert function. And this is one of my favorite ways to do it because if you can't figure out what you're trying to accomplish, you can type it in here, and it's pretty smart about helping you find it. So if I want to add something up and I don't even know that it's called the sum function, then I can just click add and click go, and it'll recommend a number of functions here. And I can click on these and it will give me little definitions of what they are down below here. And so when I click on sum, it's going to say adds all the numbers in a range of cells. So I know that that's the one that I need. It also has different categories here. So this is the recommended because I've done a search for addition, but you can also go to most recently used. So you can grab your favorites and it will use the ones that you've used recently. And you can see these are all the ones that I'm going to teach you in this course that I've been using recently. You can click on all, which will give you a complete A to Z list, and you can either scroll through this, or you can use your mouse, or you can even type in the letter that you're looking for. So if you're looking for sum, then you type SUM, and it brings you right to it. And then finally, it breaks it down by categories, so like financial, date and time, math and trig, etc. And you can use those categories all the way down to the bottom to search for a more targeted function. But in this case we were using the sum function, so we'll just click on that And it's also very handy that it brings up this function arguments box. And I'll get into more of the definition of what a function argument is in the next lecture when we're talking about the anatomy of a formula. But this box just makes it really easy to enter in the cells that you are wanting to do your calculation on. It usually anticipates it quite well, and if it doesn't, then you can easily just select them, or you can type them in manually. So that's really nice. It also does your calculation and gives you an answer here, so you can double check to make sure that you're clicked on the right cells and that you have the right formula working before you go ahead and do it. So you can click OK then, and you have your function completed. There are a couple of other ways you can do this too. AutoSum gives you a few options here of very popular functions, just for really quick reference so you can get right into them. Again, this is similar to the insert function box that we were just looking at. It has your recently used, so again you recognize these. These are the ones that I'm going to teach you in this course, and they're ones that I've used recently. And then you can go into all of your specific categories. And again, you can see that there are tons and tons of functions in here, many of which you will probably never use, and that's okay. But you can see scattered through here, there are some very commonly used ones like the if function that I'm going to teach you in this course. You can actually create functions that work with text, which is cool because Excel not only works with numbers, but it also works with text. And I'm going to show you a couple of these, like left, mid, and right. You can work with dates and times by sorting dates, months, minutes, even down to seconds. Lookup and reference is a powerful way to find things out of huge lists, and we're going to use an example of that in VLOOKUP, which is a very popular lookup tool for pulling information out of giant lists. Math and trigonometry, this is where you'll find some of the ones that we've already used here, such as product, which is multiplication, sum, which is addition, and a couple other ones that we'll look at later, like SUMIF and SUMIFs. And then there's a whole bunch of other functions here, statistical engineering cube, etc., etc. So that's where you can find your functions, either there or the insert function, or of course you can, if I delete this out, you can do the equal sign and you can just start to type your function, and of course it brings it up right there. And then finally you can go up here and you can grab a recently used function right from the formula bar. So that is what a function is and what it can do for you as you're working with Excel. And in the next lecture, we're going to look at all these different little pieces and parts, from the equal sign to the function, the brackets or parentheses, the semicolons, and the numbers. And we're going to look at the whole anatomy of a formula, including the functions. And we're going to break it down, not only so you can understand it, but so you can modify it and manipulate it to create the calculations that you want to do.